Okay, just there are a couple of things. My memory of my SACS days is very bad. I don't know, I've read like Chris Hugo Harmon and Mike Kenty's little like excerpts. And these guys remember shit that I just have no clue what they're talking about, and like I've got about 5 things I remember from junior school. It's like ridiculous. My memory is terrible. Okay, I started at SACS in sub B. I think it was Timmins. I don't remember the name of the teacher. I've got a photograph of her. So I was starting sub B and I went all the way through to matric. So 11 years. I came from Johannesburg and I lived in Muizenberg and I commuted for 11 years, on the train from Muizenberg and Fisher. So
how did that affect you?
I look back on my time at SACS and I think I spent every school day, I spent like 3 to 4 hours commuting, going either to school or back to school. And so it sucked up a lot of my day, and I didn't take full advantage of some of the facilities at SACS, the sporting facilities, which were outstanding. I look at the schools in America and they have like one football field and one field hockey field, and that's it. And we had 10 rugby fields and 2 hockey fields, and our sporting facilities were just outstanding, but I couldn't take advantage of them.
But you did, though. You played first team hockey.
I did in the winter time, but it was a struggle, because you play practice and then you got to get on a train and commute home, and then you had all the homework shit and whatever. So I did we played hockey. That was good. I enjoyed the hockey. You, Johnny Sander, I remember the guys, and Gary, Mike Andrews. I remember, I do remember those days, but I never had much interaction with Whitefoot. He was more a Latin science, arts guy, and I never had much interaction. Never had cuts from him, so that was a good thing. Yeah, I had cuts in from McEwen in junior school, but I escaped it in high school. So we used to do a little homework. I don't remember Leszek commuting. It was Mike Loverock, Guy Biddlecombe, Peter Beasley, Doug Pierce, Elgin Buxton, and James Newton are the guys that I remember. And we could do a little homework on the train, but when I go back now and I look at that train trip from Muizenberg to Fishhook, I mean, it's a phenomenal train trip. It's so scenic and beautiful, and like it's we just ignored it. It was just life. The mountains were in the way and the sea was in the way, and like it wasn't a big deal, but it's gorgeous when you look back at it now. Nothing really stood out. I was reading Chris Hugo Hammond's note, and I'd forgotten about. We spent a year at the boarding school. Standard 3 or Standard 4. We had tuition down there, and I'd forgotten all about that. I remember the teachers. They weren't. I don't think they were great teachers. I can remember Afrikaans teachers because they hated me. I was so bad at it.
How is that?
I don't know. Just Afrikaans was never like a passion of mine, never good at languages, I struggled with languages. So
what were you good at?
Maths, science, accountants, and finally the software business, which I've retired from. But software is the name of the game for me.
Yep.
I think, I don't remember being good in junior school. Junior school was like, I can remember McEwen and getting cuts from McEwen. I can remember Euster all I can remember, we were down there and there was
big room or the small room.
I don't remember. I remember the swimming pool down there, and I can just remember, we were down there, yes, but I've got no other memory of that time. So the only thing I do remember is walking to the station. I can remember walking to the station from junior school because I would commute in junior school. I was commuting with guys in junior school, and you couldn't do that today. Little guys wouldn't be walking to the station to catch a train on their own. Like that just doesn't happen. I do remember playing marbles on the playground in junior school, and Warren Kruger always used to somehow steal my marbles, but like he was so good at that shit. That was my ticket home.
Yeah.
And I still got one of those tickets, and it was for a season, for a quarter, a term, and it cost £5. That was the cost of catching the train to and from school for 3 months, I suppose. So I was in Fishhook. We lived, when we first came to Joburg, we lived in Muizenberg, and then my folks bought a house in Fishhook, and we were there for the whole time. So, I don't remember the change. I remember standing on the steps in Standard 6, not knowing what was going to happen. We were standing on the steps of Hofmeyer Hall there. All the new Standard 6s were standing there, didn't know what was going to happen, didn't know where to go. I can remember that. Khaki shorts and the cheese hats. I used to lose those things on a regular basis. I can remember fighting at the beginning of the year. I used to fight for your desk, except in Mrs. Basson, Afrikaans teacher, Mariki Basson. And she used to put me right in the front, in the middle. Right. And I used to have to sit in the front of her class. That was because I was horrible at Afrikaans. I used to have extra lessons with her. She did help me. And I think she got me through Afrikaans. I mean, I narrowly passed Afrikaans in matric. So she did help me. She was good to me. She was probably the best Afrikaans teacher I had. Yeah, she was good. Anyway, I don't know if she's still alive, but I heard she had retired to Hermanus, but I don't know how accurate that is. At the time, it was life. It was just... Johnny Ince used to try and force us to participate in extramural activities. And it was, during the summer months, there was like the athletics, and I was no good at athletics. And I had to do cross-country runs up in the mountains. I had to do a cross, because I was in Baxter. I don't know what house you're in. I was in Baxter, but we had to do a cross-country run for our house. Uh-huh. I hated every moment of it, but in retrospect, it was one of the nicest runs that I ever did. Running in the Newlands Forest is like, wow, this is like awesome. So it was, we just commuted and we went to school. It was just no. I mean, I think that schooling changed for me in 9 and 10, when I could drop English. I dropped history and geography, and I did biology and accountancy, and I could select some subjects that I was good at. I mean, I think Doodles de Kock was a good teacher, and I think I enjoyed biology. I mean, I still, I've been thinking about this call, and I think about our schooling, and I think I'm not sure we had great schooling. I didn't teach us. I don't think they taught us to prepare us for living. They taught us what they were told to teach us, but the maths and the logic and the English was good, but the history and the Great Trek and I mean, how many hours did we waste doing that shit? And how much do you remember? I mean, how much? I mean, our sporting facilities were phenomenal at SACS. Just unbelievable. But Doug Brown, I think he was an exceptional teacher, but for the talented authors, but for the guys that were could hardly put English together, he was probably not the best. I was not the best. He liked essays and flowery writing, and he didn't teach me to write a CV or resume, or to do a business letter or anything like that. But I will tell you something about Doug Brown. During matric, he phoned me after one of the English papers. I was at home. I slept in the afternoon, and then all of a sudden the phone rings, and there's Doug Brown. Wonder how I was doing. He was worried about me, and he was checking up on me. He could have knocked me over with a feather. This is Doug Brown. The final matric exams, I think there were multiple English papers. I don't remember, but I wrote one, and then he phoned me after, at the same time. I don't remember the exact details, but he phoned me to find out how I was doing. And who is this guy? Unbelievable. I know. I will never forget it. I don't know, he passed. I think he's passed. Yeah, I'd had some extra lessons from him. He had made,
About what?
There was another guy, I forget his name. We were crap in English. You know, we couldn't write. We couldn't write interesting essays, and he made us do some extra writing. And so he did take an interest in me in trying to help me improve my English. So that was Doug Brown. But I mean, we didn't have a lot of lessons, and you know, we used to have to write a paragraph or two every day for him for a while. So that was Doug Brown.
Amazing.
So,
anyone else stand out for you, for good or for bad?
I mean, obviously John N stands out. He was a dynamic individual. Dan Norton,
Why?
you know, the math teacher, and Badenhorst was like, he was a good accountants teacher.
Why? What about Ince? What was it about Ince that made you mention him?
I don't know. You know, I can remember one geography lesson where we did, you know, maps and cartography and relief maps, and he taught me some stuff that, like, I look at a map today and I think of John Ents, you know, because he taught me some stuff that was of value, you know. So other than that, it was Overholzer was. I mean, he was a good teacher, but I think Dan was more, I don't know, more tighter. You know, Overholzer was a little like loosey goosey in my humble opinion. What I remember, he wasn't. He didn't take as much interest in the people as Dan Norton did. No, I think, you know, Dan, my interest in maths was I've always been good. I was always been good at it. And, you know, like, I don't think I needed, you know, Oberholzer taught me, but like, we never clicked, I suppose, you know. And I mean, I majored in maths at UCT. So it wasn't, you know, I got no strong memories of Oberholzer, but I've got strong memories of Dan Norton, you know. That's unbelievable. You see, we in D, I was not aware of that. I knew some people had left, but I went from D1 to E1, and I wasn't aware of the massive exodus to Abbots. I'd heard of some guys going, but it didn't affect me. You know. How did he get my phone number? You know, like, it wasn't like I had a cell phone. You know, it was like you had to dig it up in record somewhere to. Anyway, it was going to be definitely going to. I was going to go to varsity. Did the varsity thing. Did 4 years, BSc and the honors. And you were there at the same time. You and Johnny Sandler. You were the. I can remember a SACS appeal that you and Johnny Sandler were on the team. You had lists, your pet hate lists, and Johnny Sandler's I hate the rag chairman, and you said I hate the editor or something along those lines. Exactly. I remember that. I'm thinking, I know these guys. You know, it was at the start of, you know, the tech software world, and like, it was a good thing for me. You know, I did maths. I majored in maths, and I could see, like, this wasn't going to bring any money in. And I'd done computer science, and so I did honors. And then I had a bursary from the CSIR, so I had to go and work for them for a couple of years afterwards. So
doing what?
Doing software development. So I went, after I graduated 77, I went up to Pretoria and I worked on the CSIR campus for 6 months. Then I got drafted to the Navy. Somehow I got in the Navy, and I did 2 years in the Navy. Well, yeah, but okay. So mine was a little interesting because I was at Saldanha Bay for my basics, and then the unit that I was in, the CSIR, was Defense Research. So they requested me to go back and work for them while I was in uniform. So I went straight from basics back to my civvy job, and I carried on doing in uniform. But so I did the rest of my naval training at the CSR, and I was incredibly lucky, and just unbelievably lucky, you know. And
what is
then
the work like?
It was just software development, just software development, you know. And so we had our own 4th generation language, our own like Pascal-like language, and it was early days, you know. But I worked on the compiler a little bit, but. Yeah, it was a good time in the software world. You know, it was in early days, baby days, you know, and developing operating systems for this little computer which controlled guns and stuff in the Defense Force. Oh, hell no. I mean, like, when I think back, you know, I was I was a software guy in an engineering company because they were designing circuit boards and whatever for this computer, and I was the tech guy doing the micro. This is microcode. It was a little different to what it is today, but I had no clue. The only thing I remember at university, I was talking to some guys, and I said, we need to be able to have these computers talk to each other. And nothing came of it. Just like it was an idea, you need to be able to have computers talk to each other. And like, I still remember telling this one guy he should investigate it, and nothing happened. And like, where we are today, I mean, like, unbelievable. I didn't get PCs I didn't get my own PC until about 1990. I mean, I was I did mainframe type development, I was. Okay, so I had to do a couple of years for the CSR. So I did another 18 months because I'd done 6 months. I did my Navy training, and then I did another 18 months. And then I left that company and I went overseas for 9 months, just sort of bumbling around. I was trying to get a job in the UK. I'm very happy living in the US. I thank my lucky stars that I've managed to get a visa and I've got my citizenship and all the rest of it. I enjoy going back to Cape Town. I've still got family there. My daughter loves going there. Unfortunately, she's fallen in love with Cape Town. She thinks it's just a fantastic place, which it is. But like, I wouldn't want to live there, I mean, I think there's no future for a white guy in South Africa. I look at my nieces and their kids and like nieces and nephews and think, well, the load shedding that's going on at the moment, it's not a good situation. We were building computers for the defense, and like there wasn't like a lot of commercial opportunities for that. And then I saw an ad for a company called SPL in South Africa. It's quite a big software house, and I joined them, and I got into a commercial software company out of Germany. They were selling databases and stuff for mainframes. So I managed to pick up that technology, and that gave me a foot into the US because they were looking for people. So in '86, I got a visa to come and work, a work visa to come to the States and support this mainframe technology. Well, I was from about '83 to '86, SPL was doing a good business selling their database and 4th generation language. And it was a good experience. I was working with sort of the big companies, the Tonga, I was living in Durban, Tonga Hewlett's and, the companies down there, a lot of universities. And I picked up the technology, and it gave me a foothold into the US. That was like the best thing that ever happened to me. So
yeah, you won lotto.
Yeah, I didn't have US contacts. I had a South African passport. There was no way I was going to get anywhere.
And at this stage, you're on your own, or you already have
a partner? I had a girlfriend, but like I'd suggested to her we should go to Australia, and she said no, it's too far away. Now everybody wants to go to Australia. It seems like
far away. It's true, but that's part of its attraction these days.
I think so. So anyway, we decided to go to the States, but I got a visa.
And you went with your girlfriend?
No, she didn't get a visa. So that we never sort of coming to the end of the relationship. So I came on my own, basically. Yeah. Northern Virginia, just outside DC. Never been to the States before. So it was. I
mean, there you are. You're a little South African boy.
I had a few South African friends that had come before me, but you get into the work, and you do the work, and you support the customers, and like you do a good job, and you travel. I travel a little bit in the States for the job, and that was good. I'm not sure that I'm an American. I've been here for 30 something years. I don't feel as connected as other Americans. I didn't go through the schooling, and I think Americans go through a schooling in their college days, and I missed that. I didn't do that, and that is a bond that I don't have with other Americans. You know, my university days was I stayed at home, I commuted, and most kids here, they go and stay in res and they are independent from parents. So it's very different, and the sporting is very different. You know, so it's I'm connected, but I'm not connected. There's a connection on some levels, on the work levels, on the I live here now and I speak the language. And I enjoy watching American football and baseball, but it's not my passion. I am at home, yeah. But it's when you talk to other guys, you know, if you talk about, you know, sometimes I had a neighbor, and you know, Saturday afternoon is college football days, and they would watch college, and they all rave about their teams and like, you know, like Obama, and this one, and the Hoosiers over there, and like they're all rooting for their college team, you know, and like I don't have a college team, and I don't really give a rat's who wins, you know, like. So it's there's a disconnect there. There's no, it just doesn't, there's no connection. And you're never going to get that. It's done. You know, the days of going to college are over. Like my kids all went to Indiana University, and I thought, you know, maybe I should go and trying to connect with Americans. Except I'm just not going to connect. You know, we're not in common. You know, we never will be. One of those things, you know. But I'm good. Anyway, so I met my wife at the software company that I was working at, and she was divorced. She had 2 kids, and we moved to San Francisco with the arm of the software company I worked for in Johannesburg, SPL. There was a branch in San Francisco. We spent 2 years in San Francisco.
When was that?
It was late 80s, 88, 89. I was there for the earthquake. You know, there was a big earthquake in San Francisco in 89. And my wife then decided, going to get out of here. We're not going to stay in San Francisco, earthquakes, whatever. So we went back to Virginia. We've lived in Virginia now since 1990, I suppose. Yeah, since 1990. I've got a daughter, and I've got 2 with my. They were young, so basically I've got 3 kids, and they've got their own kids now, and so I've got grandkids. So yeah, they live close they're all in Virginia, so they're close, and we see them often. And we travel. I brought the whole, not the grandkids. I've taken the kids to South Africa many times. You know, wife has been there 20 times probably to Cape Town, and we go back often. Got a sister and a brother. My brother went to SACS. He was 5 years ahead of me. He was a SACS old boy too. Graduated when I moved to San at 6. He left, so he was 5 years. So we never overlapped at all. So, sister lives in Somerset West, and my brother lives in Fisher. So I'm still working for the same mainframe software company. I went back to the same mainframe software company called Software AG. Worked there until early 2008. We went through the Y2K era. I did some development for tools to solve the Y2K problem. Then I got into Java development in the early 2000s. Yeah, no, Java is a fantastic language. I really enjoyed it. It never felt I was at work. You know, I had a great job. I loved my career. I mean, there were tough times. I had to do presentations, which I hated. My wife's company she started her own company in the early 90s. And why that's important is that nearly went under in the .com era after the Y2000. And she nearly went down. She stopped taking a salary. She moved there was a couple of staff, she moved them into the house. So I carried on working, and then she was running a software consulting business for the federal government, providing software consultants for the federal government. And I was doing software development, and then she sold her company. She retired, and that was 10 years ago. And I retired about 5 years ago. So she did well. She didn't. I hit the jackpot in more ways than one. So like she allowed us. She's given us a good retirement. We're traveling. We do a lot of hiking. We did Machu Picchu. We did the Inca Trail last year. We did another hike around Mont Blanc. It's a 7-day hike in Switzerland, Italy, France. Like we traveling. We're traveling. I do a little photography, do a little ancestry, and
The ancestry?
Nothing. Just dug into some of the interesting one is a grandfather that I had. He lived on Las Palmas. His family had consumption in the UK, and they moved to Las Palmas. And I've got a grandmother that's buried on Las Palmas somewhere. I was traveling by boat in Las Palmas in South Africa at a very young age. They'd get on these small little and they cruise up and down the coast. I mean, like, unbelievable, unheard of. It's just incredible for me that he's in his he's a teenager. He's on a boat going from Las Palmas to. My sister had some trees, and I thought, oh, let me just dig into it. And then I did the whole DNA thing. Not any unwanted children, fortunately. It's been interesting. I do a little bit now and then. It's majors come up. So one of my memories, I have many memories of you from the goals while we were playing hockey, shouting at me and Sandler to like get the change, do whatever. It's like he's coming down. I could just remember hearing Andrew shouting from the goalie. Believe I mean, I do remember that so strongly, like shouting, watch him out, like even just, and I just look at applications and figure out how they work, look for bugs. I from just a critical perspective, I look at applications and figure out how they work. My wife she is technical but not super technical, so I support her, and I keep up to date with it. But I hadn't heard of it until about 3 days, like a week or so ago, when it was the answer in a New York Times crossword. There was like, what's this latest machine learning device? And ChatGPT. What? I spoke to my daughter. She said, yeah, like it's this new tool. And like, I've seen articles in the New York Times about it.
And sign up.
I know. Talk about your son. My daughter also hasn't fallen far from the tree. And she's now into data analytics. And she processes petabytes of data in the ad space for ad companies, because she's trying to correlate. If you go to a phone and you see an ad, and then go to your laptop and you buy something, connection between connection between the phone ad and the computer. She's not in the ad business; she's in the data business.
No.
Agencies come to her to buy their data, or
we're her customer.
Yeah, you're a customer. Yeah.